Thank you very much. And welcome to Cats and Dogs here on Press TV with me, Lambert Topic, where we start with the latest East-West war. Not about territory, but about testosterone, which, by the way, is a human chemical, not a Ferrari sports car. This new war was declared after a funny joke by the Canadian Prime Minister at the recent G7 summit. Justin Trudeau referred to Putin's infamous 2009 photos when the modern-day Russian Tsar posed topless on a horse worthy of the old Russian royalty itself. Trudeau suggested that male G7 leaders like Joe Biden, Emmanuel Macron and Boris Johnson should follow Putin's lead and take off their shirts to show that we're tougher than Putin. Has he actually looked at his colleagues? And, for that matter, himself? We'll come to that in just a moment. Putin's initial reaction was, I don't know how they wanted to get undressed, above or below the waist, but I think it would be a disgusting sight in any case. And for once, maybe the free world might actually agree with him. Luckily, G7 summit diplomatic protocol didn't allow the three amigos to undress until they got home. But here's a quick look at what might have been if they had taken the Trudeau challenge. Let's begin with the French president, as he was allegedly in 2017. Certainly a match for Putin, and let's be honest, a fantastic example of what you can do if you can fake a physique with Photoshop. As Desperate Don might say, those are definitely fake abs. Now let's see the real Macron. It's not disastrous. I mean, the main difference between him and Putin is that Macron isn't sitting on a horse. But now let's depart from the conventional body politic and study a man who could soon be looking for new employment. And could that new employment be a career in modelling? Ladies and gentlemen, Boris Johnson, one of the true heavyweights of the political world, literally. And no, I suspect a career modelling probably isn't for him. Putin said to look good, you should do exercise and stop abusing alcohol and other bad habits. And I'd add, maybe don't go out looking like that unless you want people to throw you money. And maybe he should learn the difference between a Downing Street meeting and a high-calorie booze party. Or is the answer, there isn't any difference? Now, what about the leader of the free world? More Photoshop? Well, on the upside, if sleepy Joe Biden is using a car instead of a bicycle, at least he can fall asleep at the wheel without falling over. Continuing on the testosterone theme, Big Mouth Boris has accused Putin of toxic masculinity.
You need more women in positions of power. If Putin was a woman, which he obviously isn't, but if he were, I really don't think he would have embarked on a crazy macho war of invasion and violence in the way that he has. If you want a perfect example of toxic masculinity, it's what he's doing in Ukraine.
Now, if Putin was a woman, which he obviously isn't, he would not have invaded Ukraine. Right then, according to Professor Johnson's thesis, Margaret Thatcher, who invaded the Falkland Islands, must have been a man too. What about Boris? Could he be a woman? Which he obviously isn't. I don't think so. No female British Prime Minister has ever misbehaved so much, built a reputation for partying, promiscuity, or gone out with that hairstyle. And as for his fashion sense, to say he's into grunge, do you remember grunge? Would be an insult to grunge. Johnson could thank Putin for distracting everyone from the Partygate scandal with his Ukrainian gambit. Maybe Boris keeps sending weapons to Ukraine because while there's a war on, people aren't showing up for parties anymore. Incidentally, on masculinity, how about this? A 6-year-old Iranian boy lifting 95 kilo weights? Quite amazing. 95 kilos, by the way, is almost as heavy as the hot air generated by Boris' apologies in a single day. Apart from their physiques, G7 leaders need to solve other problems too, like sky-high oil prices, especially after Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates declared they couldn't or wouldn't produce more oil. Perhaps Biden's solution is to supply grief counsellors at all American gas stations to support Americans who, in the absence of Middle Eastern oil or an invasion of Venezuela, must pay a fortune for their gas. Not surprisingly, former US President Donald Trump has an early edge over Biden in the hypothetical 2024 rematch, according to a new Emerson College poll. Trump fans say they miss real good old-fashioned barbecues as they seek cheaper substitutes. Even on paper, you see what I did there? That's a bad idea. After all, it's impossible to burn that kind of steak. There's also the rather important fact that most registered voters surveyed would consider backing a moderate independent or third-party candidate over both Sleepy Joe and Desperate Don.
Our kids are dying in schools, and I used to be a teacher, and it's a huge problem.
Elsewhere in our wacky world, Israel is trying to prove it's the most democratic regime on earth, ever, by holding general elections more often than any other place on the planet. After the most recent dissolution of the Knesset, the regime has set the stage for a fifth round of general elections in under 4 years, in a voting bonanza of democracy and uncertainty. But why? In yet another Cats and Dogs exclusive, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the man who can answer that question, former Israeli Prime Minister Naftali Bennett. Mr. Bennett, welcome to Cats and Dogs. Sorry to hear you couldn't remain as Israeli Prime Minister.
It's no problem. No one can.
Okay. Why couldn't you keep the coalition government together?
I did, longer than anyone expected.
You mean 1 year?
Yes, because there's always a problem with that job.
What's the problem?
Benjamin Netanyahu.
Why is he the problem?
Don't you ever read the newspapers? He was worse than me.
Well, he tweeted, "It's good news for Israeli citizens that you stepped down."
Well, he would say that, wouldn't he?
Is he coming back?
Sure.
When?
Not yet. He's busy right now.
Busy with what?
He's on trial for corruption. He'll be back if he gets lucky. Or pays them enough. Only joking. But not really.
Okay, but why didn't you dissolve the Knesset after Biden's planned visit on July the 14th?
It makes no difference.
Why doesn't it make a difference?
He'll be asleep anyway. Remember when I was talking passionately in the White House? Have you got the pictures of it?
Do we have the... Yeah, I think we do. I think so.
Yet another chapter in the beautiful story of the friendship between our two nations, the United States of America and the Jewish and democratic state of Israel. Both of us who seek to do good and need to be strong, both.
Yes, that's what happened, you see.
Maybe he was just thinking.
No, he was sleeping.
Will you still be in charge of the Iran portfolio?
Yeah, there are still some assignments to finish.
Mr. Lapid is now acting Prime Minister. What can he do?
Nothing. As you just said yourself. He's just acting.
I didn't mean it like that, but what does having so many elections actually achieve?
It shows the American president that we're democratic.
And how does that help?
If we look democratic, Biden won't invade us.
Look democratic, that's not very coherent.
Nor is Biden.
Mr. Bennett, thank you very much. That was former Israeli Prime Minister Naftali Bennett. And if you understand his logic, please do give me a call and explain it to me. That's all for this week. Join me again next time to get the latest on the never-ending Israeli elections, the wit and wisdom, or otherwise, of Justin Trudeau, and whether Boris Johnson has finally bought any proper clothes. That's all on Press TV with me, Len Topic, and Cats and Dogs.